Welcome to Western Wisconsin Journal. I'm Bobbi Pominville, and I'm your reporter on the arts. And I have found a really good interview for today. I would like to welcome my friend and former colleague to the show again, and it's Dr. Kris Tjornehoj. Welcome to you.
Thank you very much, Bobbi.
And I wanted to hear about her happenings at the university and so on. And a lot of you know she has a lot of things that she does in her life. But let's get first to the conductor position you do. And that the reason I said that is because you're a conductor music educator at UWRF. Now, what do you actually do for conducting? What is your title there?
So as a conductor, I conduct the University of Wisconsin River Falls Symphony Band. I teach conducting to music education majors or individuals who desire lessons. And that's pretty much it.
But you also have the symphony orchestra.
I do.
And the band, right?
Well, I do.
Or am I thinking summer band?
You're right, I do all of these. Okay. So I also conduct the St. Croix Valley Symphony Orchestra. Right. And then I conduct the St. Croix Valley Community Band in the summer.
Yes.
And then every other year, I have concocted another band called the Three Rivers Concert Band.
That's right.
And so that band is a touring band that goes to Europe every other year.
Oh, my.
And so those are the, under my umbrella of conducting, that's what I do.
Yes, and I wanted to hear that because I wasn't quite sure of exactly what you do, but that conducting class must be a lot of fun for you.
Love it. It's been my passion for many, many years. And when I got my PhD, my focus in my research project was under improving the art of conducting on undergraduate music education majors. And so I think that at that time I read every conducting book that's ever been written. And since then, it is my passion, and I just watch other people and listen and read articles and hire people to evaluate my conducting and continue to study and grow.
Oh, well, then I just have to mention, I've told you this many times, I consider you as my favorite conductor.
Well, that is very kind of you, Bobbi.
And, it's not just conducting the orchestra and the band, but vocals. I've sung vocals with your group at the university, and I've done a little bit of Shepherd of the Valley, and I just think your conducting skills are the best.
Well, that is very kind of you to say.
Okay.
I think the strength is that I study choir, band, and orchestra.
Yes.
And then what happens is I don't fall into one pigeonhole of one style, that I really try to bring the clarity of conducting a band, the musicality of conducting an orchestra, and the line of conducting a choir. So I try to kind of incorporate all musicianship together.
I think that's rare.
It is rare. I know who else does that in the United States and abroad. So I have my favorite conductors abroad. And so anyway, we don't have to go into name dropping on them, but I really am astute to watch and learn from others. Good
for you. I really enjoy watching you. Okay, now that's the very next thing I want to get into is this innovative new class you were teaching from the university. And what was that called when you went abroad and you were teaching opera?
Yes, I was teaching that. So I just recently returned from a class where I taught, I'll call it Understanding the Art of Music. And so it's really kind of a music history, but experiential class that I created where in fact, I did research on the Habsburg dynasty. And I did a whole overview of the entire Habsburg dynasty. And I first started doing names and who did this and who commissioned what and who hired what. And it ended up to be like I know I spent 2.5 to 3 days just doing that research for one of my lectures. So that was the kind of thing that I was doing, was trying to find where am I in place abroad and what can we learn from this space and everything that influenced it. So my 2 locations, one was Barcelona, Spain, and one was Vienna, Austria. So when you're in Barcelona, quite honestly, in Barcelona, that leads to what I was doing last week, but in Barcelona, their municipal band is a state-sponsored band, as is their national orchestra. And so I was able to get into this absolutely gorgeous building and observe a day of the band and observe a day of the orchestra. And what I did with the students is I brought them to observe the day of the wind band, the band. And they were preparing for a concert at La Sagrada Familia. You've heard of it?
No.
That's the big cathedral.
Not familiar with Spain.
All right, so the Spain Cathedral, and they were celebrating the last Gaudi designed it, and so each pillar, it's 5 pillars, so they were celebrating the final construction of one of the pillars, and so there was this concert, and it was massive, and they did a lottery for the tickets, and I believe they said that there was 850 tickets available, and they had 40,000 people apply to go to the concert.
What?
Well, first of all, you got in free, of course, to the cathedral, and typically there's a fee to get into this cathedral. And second of all, to hear the Barcelona Community Band, municipal band, you think of that as, oh, that's just another band concert. Yeah. They're all professionals. They're absolutely amazing. And their conductor, Jose Pascual Villaplana, was just one of my favorite conductors. So that's what I was doing. I created this course where we learned about the music. And so that music that they performed, since they went to a 3-hour rehearsal, we researched those pieces of music. So everything I was doing was designing the course to complement our experiences.
Yes.
You understand?
I think that's amazing. If I ever heard of anything like that when I was in school, I would have jumped on it.
Really. And like we toured the Picasso Museum. That was a very important piece of Spain. So then we studied music that was written at the same time. And then the students had to do comparison and contrasting of form and analysis of colors.
Yes.
And so these are things that, we're a little out of the box. But you know what? I think they lead to cultural enrichment.
Yes.
Thinking. Yes. You can't just search online for an answer. And you have to have reflection.
That is amazing. So how many days approximately were you in Spain?
So I was in Spain for 2 weeks, and I was in Austria for 2 weeks.
And the students were with you?
Yes.
So you had planned a rehearsal and various things. And then you were lecturing sometime, weren't you?
Oh, absolutely.
All the time?
Yeah. So for sure. Okay. So I had classroom experience, and then I would do, PowerPoints, and we'd do listening, and we'd create TikTok videos, and we'd do some performances, so that was fun. And one of my friends from Madrid took the train up, and Tony Blasco Lambis is his name, and so he came in and did a guest lecture one day, and then the conductor of the Barcelona Municipal Band came over to do a lecture one day. Yeah. And I'm trying to think if there was any other person I brought in. In Vienna, I brought in an opera singer. And so the focus in Vienna was more opera and classical, of course, because it's the bed of classical music.
Yeah.
So that's what we studied. And I do have to share one experience. Okay. This opera singer that I brought in also worked our breakfast. He worked at our hostel.
Oh.
I know. You would think that a pretty famous opera singer wouldn't have to do that, but he has a wife and a child, and he said he needed that regular, steady income. Oh, okay. So he worked at our hostel. And yet, in the evening, he's singing with the Vienna State Opera and with the...
Amazing.
Yes, all of that. So he invited me to an event the very first day that I was there. And it was a, what did he call it? Open mic. Where you all get together and you want to sing and I want to sing and and they had a monitor. And then these people were all professional, either opera or theater stars and singers in Austria. And so I get down to this place, and it's in the basement of this restaurant, and you've got a conductor playing the piano, and oh my goodness, it was such a highlight. And it was supposed to go from 8 until 11. Ooh. And it's 11 o'clock, quarter to 11. And all of a sudden, everyone stands up and starts clapping. And I'm...
Really?
And apparently there was a woman who was with the Bolshevik opera. And she lived in the Ukraine.
Yeah.
And she had recently defected.
Oh.
And somebody had decided to put her up. They heard about this terrible incident, of course. We know what's going on. We don't need to go there.
Right.
And so somebody had paid for her apartment for 1 year to get her settled and on her feet. And she has such an aura of respect.
Really?
It was just the most magnificent, magical moment I had on my trip. And then she went up to the microphone and sang for an hour.
Really?
So I was just filled with joy and random people and wonderful people and the experiences, the students. I took the students back the next week to experience this.
Okay. Well,
Good times.
That's a really good story for me, because I just love that they were so supportive and loving toward her, and she got to sing. And I don't know now, she's singing in different languages.
Oh, yes.
Some Italian, some Latin.
Correct.
And maybe the opera repertoire.
Correct.
You know? But I just feel like, and they knew she was there, and so on, they gave her a chance.
Yes.
They welcomed her. That's beautiful. That's a great story, Kris. I do feel good. Music is so important in so many ways. All right, so now we're going to Vienna.
Okay.
And I'd like to hear a little bit about that with your students.
So my highlight of Vienna were my students is I created another rehearsal. And this was with the Wien Modern Music Festival.
Ooh.
It just happened to be going when we were there.
Yeah.
And I arranged with a lot of emails, I think 17, to go observe the Radio Symphony Orchestra. Ooh. So the Radio Symphony Orchestra of Vienna, 1 year ago, was on the docket to be cut because of financial constraints. Mm-hmm. And I remember getting an email that said that they were doing a worldwide campaign to have people support this orchestra because they're one of the few orchestras that is really a full-time orchestra that's set to be flexible and creative. So they're doing an all-American program in January, and yet we observed a contemporary program where the composer was from Germany, and she happened to be at it. So when I arrived at the music hall, a musicologist met us to give us a historical tour of the building and then about the pieces that we were to listen to. Oh. Anna was her name.
Wonderful.
And we sit down and the conductor comes over to shake our hands and welcome us. Then the business manager of the orchestra comes up and addresses the students. And then Rebecca, the composer who's going to have a world premiere, talked to them about her world. And here's my students. They were so surprised.
Yeah.
So that took a lot of emails to get that all approved.
Oh,
and of course, that was one of our, again, personal highlights. Also, touring the State Opera House. And then we had another tour guide who told us about, who'd been there and who sits in what seats and how much it costs.
Oh,
and so 5 of my students decided they were going to a formal opera.
Really?
And the tickets, of course, are like $250. Or standing room only, which is $17 to stand. Mm-hmm. And 5 of my students stood in line one day. They got there and they said, sorry, sold out. And this sells out like every night. Oh. And so then they went back the next day. And they were there a half an hour early, 9:30 a.m., for when the box office opened. And they were ready this time, And so that caused me great joy.
That is wonderful.
We visited Mozart's birthplace. And then we also went to a concert of students who study vocal music.
Oh,
And that was a very big concert, and I would say that that was also sold out. People love music there, and they support
yes,
it.
heavens, yes. I mean, the land of Mozart. I mean, it's so, yeah, I've toured there. I went to Salzburg, so I saw the Mozart Museum and all of that. Yeah, I've seen his birthplace, too. And then The Sound of Music.
Of course.
I mean, I'm diverging off here, but because I did the Mozart tour in the morning and the Sound of Music tour in the afternoon, and just grabbed an ice cream or something in between.
Perfect.
And I knew when I got to Salzburg, you probably won't get back here. So you really need to see everything you can besides Mozart's one of my favorites.
Absolutely.
I mean, that music just speaks to me.
Me as well. I understand. Yeah,
just
and our
love it.
students. I did get a chance. It was optional, of course, to go to see the Vienna Voice Choir,
Oh,
and they were performing with a chamber group from the Vienna Philharmonic and soloists. So that was really a highlight for me as well musically.
yes, that's beautiful.
So lots of opportunities, and I had to create them. So that was the class.
Yes, so you had to do a lot for that.
I did.
Oh, I just, that is so neat. And it's so, what you're doing is something they would never get to see anywhere else.
Correct.
And then to learn about all that music and, to give them all that background and so on, you even went into the dynamics of the country.
Right. Absolutely. The political, absolutely.
Well, that's got to be a highlight for you.
It was very fun.
And it's so much a highlight, you're going back in the spring.
Well, I am. So the abroad programs at UW River Falls, of course, are just kind of kicking off since COVID, because there's a lot of organization and planning and contracts. It takes a lot to pull these off. And so the other program that the university has is called Experience Scotland, and it is centered outside of Edinburgh,
Yes.
Scotland, and students stay in a former abbey that's been designed into individual rooms and classrooms and a space. So I'll be teaching 3 modules, we call them, 3-week classes.
Yeah.
And I'll be teaching a similar class like I did here, Understanding the Music of Scotland. And so that'll be England and the UK. And then the second one is History of Jazz. Because believe it or not, that is really beloved in Scotland and in London. Jazz is
that
prolific.
is kind of hard to believe because it's so American.
I know. But they have absolutely wonderful schools and network structures. And like in London, it's called Ronnie Scott's Jazz Club is the pinnacle. And it doesn't hurt that they have the Fringe Festival because that promotes all of this new initiative and worldwide music.
Wow. Well, when I was in Prague, I think it was the same trip, I was on St. Charles Bridge, and I heard this music, and I went, that's jazz.
Yes.
And they were
always.
sitting on the bridge, 3 musicians, and I was kind of surprised.
It's a universal language.
I didn't think I would hear that anywhere in Europe besides Prague. But anyway, you're right. It is. And that's a different subject because you are really a jazz expert.
Well, I study it, and I am bringing my saxophone. And one of my students is one of our trombone players, and he's bringing his instrument. So I will be spending a little more time playing in jazz than I normally do.
Oh my goodness, that's so cool.
Yeah, it will be very fun.
All right, now we need to move on. We're past the Christmas concert season, or we could have been doing another 10 minutes at least. But, and of course I did ask you about, what major concerts were you part of when you got back? Like you told me, 2 days later.
Yes, I flew in on a Friday night, and by Monday morning I was already conducting, and thank goodness I studied my music so I knew what I was doing. And I jumped right into a symphony band rehearsal first thing Monday morning. And my piece that I was focused on is called The Musketeers, written by another Madrid composer. His name is Oscar Navarro, who was here last year.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And so it featured four clarinet players. That's why it wasn't called The Three Musketeers, even though it was inspired by the book.
That's
So the piece depicted, it was 17 and a half minutes, depicting the book that was originally the story written in 1642. I don't want to go into all the history of it, but I had to study that because I had to understand the music.
Yes,
But it featured four clarinet players, and
Yes.
they commissioned this piece, and it was written for them. And they were part of the Barcelona Municipal Band. And so I brought those people over here.
Yes.
And so that was about a year in the making. So I knew that we were having a bridge. And that's what I do. When I go to Europe, I don't just enjoy myself. I bring things back, and we have a bridge to the St. Croix Valley and to the region so that other people can benefit from my connections and my contacts and my experiences.
Yes. Oh, I think that's wonderful. So you brought the group called the Barcelona Chamber Players.
Actually, clarinet players.
Yes, I'm
Barcelona
sorry, did I
clarinet
say that
players.
wrong?
Yeah, that's all
Clarinet
right.
players. And you brought them to the university and other places.
Yes, so I brought them to the university, and so their residency did everything from master classes to college students, to master classes for area students. And we had students from, oh my goodness, Farmington, Minnesota, Lakeville, Red Wing, Minnesota, Hastings, Stillwater, Centennial High School. And on the Wisconsin side, we had, I forgot Stillwater. And then we had Hudson, River Falls, Spring Valley, and Ellsworth.
Yes, and I've been lucky to see some pictures online of the players from that group interspersed in the orchestra or the band, whatever it was, and helping the students or playing with the students
Absolutely.
and just right in there. I'm sure
They were
love that.
personality plus. They were kind, encouraging role models that will have changed many lives.
I am sure. Oh, that's absolutely wonderful. So, and then you were conducting again, I believe, last Sunday?
I was, and that was a different group. That was the orchestra, and we did a Christmas concert with Trinity Lutheran Choir, a children's choir, and an opera singer again, Tommy Glass.
Oh, yes, I read about it. I really think that is a great way to share your talents and everything else, and then bring it local. But there's that. I have to say that concert space is so wonderful.
Yes, it is.
At Trinity,
It is.
I know other people use it and want to be there.
Yes.
But I have to say, it's just the most uplifting atmosphere.
Well, the acoustics are good. That wall gives you a nice background. As a singer, you can hear yourself.
Unbelievable.
And it's just a warm space. And we had standing room only in that place. We had a very nice audience.
I think I'm going to have to watch it.
And that will live on their Trinity Lutheran YouTube channel.
Yes.
Just like the Barcelona concert one will live on the UW River Falls Music Department YouTube channel.
Yes, and I love that. I love all this streaming going on right now because I don't go to everything and I have pick and choose but I just wish I could go every night or practically every night. But anyway, I was almost there. I was invited to sing in the choir. But there were a couple things going on. I couldn't. So, am I missing something? There was a Shepherd of the Valley.
We did do a Shepherd of the Valley concert
Yes,
as well.
I saw that.
And that one will also be on their website.
Yes.
And I did play, I played saxophone on that one.
Good.
And I also played saxophone on one other one the next weekend. Ji Young Lee, who's my piano cohort and collaborative pianist. She hosted a concert at Woodbury Baptist Church. And so then I played
you played there.
5 pieces.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah, I've had a busy experience since coming back from my travels.
I know
So
it.
it's been a good
I
ride.
can't imagine how you did that.
I know that it was short term and that I have a week off.
Yeah, yeah. But it's that coming back that's hard for me. It just doesn't work. You know, I'm up in the middle of the night and then I can't sleep in the day. So, well, okay, now we won't worry about that. Now, one more question. I like to go on for a long time, but what is your schedule for spring semester? You talked about it a little.
I will fly out January 17th
Okay,
and return home May 5th.
yes.
And during that time, I will teach in Scotland. They call them modules, a first class, a second class, and then the third break, if you will, in the middle, I will oversee independent study research projects for our Semester Abroad Europe program. And they are people who are non-musicians who are studying, we call them senior capstones before they graduate. And this can be done in collaboration with a professor on campus here at River Falls and me as the supervisor. That culminates in a research project, and you disseminate that at a research fair in the fall. And I have students studying in Athens, Greece. I have them in Tuscany, Italy, Amsterdam, back in Barcelona, Spain, and then 2 in Oslo, Norway.
Oh, my favorite. I just love that
I
place.
know you do.
That is very special to me. Well, so you've got how many students and all involved in that?
Every class has a different number, but there will be how many students will I interact with throughout that semester?
Yeah.
Probably 35.
Okay. Now, did you say they're not musicians per se, but they are interested and they want to do
Right. Study.
a study on something?
Yes. There are a few musicians, music majors that are coming, but really the focus is for what I call the non-music major, the general learner.
Oh, yeah.
But it will all work out.
Well, that's
They'll all learn
wonderful.
together.
Good. Good. And who knows, in the future, they might spring up to something else. So
Correct.
I think that is just fabulous. Well, this just sounds like a dream.
It does, doesn't it?
But it's really a lot of planning, a lot of what you put into it.
I would agree with that.
I just admire you so much for getting into something this deep and important for students and others.
Well, what I hope to do, Bobbi, is that I would like to, when I retire from the university, I would like to, first of all, continue my community ensembles because it's what I love to do is to serve. And then I would like to lead tours that will help other people because in many relationships, you get one couple who one likes to travel and one is not interested.
That's true.
And so what I'd like to do is to be able to offer some of these resources and this richness of experience to smaller groups of people where I take them and just take away the trouble and share some of the joy of the things that I'm sharing with students, with adults.
I think that's a wonderful plan, and I hope it happens soon so you have some more time with the rest of us. And, but
Thank you.
No, I don't take away from any of it because you're doing what you love.
I do.
And what a great thing you've developed there.
Thank you. It's been my honor to serve.
Yeah, I admire you so much. Well, we have to say goodbye to Kris, but we'll have her back another time, I'm sure. But I do want to thank you for watching today.